This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Did you catch Reverend Patrick Conroy's prayer yesterday before House session? Chaplain of House of Representatives' opening prayer was inspired by what he saw from members of the House fighting this week over a vote on whether or not to condemn as racist the president and then move to impeach him, which didn't turn out quite as Green had hoped.
Impeachment party failed.
Here's the prayer in part, Reverend Patrick Conroy.
We give you thanks, O God, for giving us another day. This has been a difficult and contentious week in which darker spirits seem to have been at play in the people's house. In your most holy name, I now cast out all spirits of darkness from this chamber, spirits not from you.
Doors flew open.
I cast out the spirit of discouragement, which deadens the hope of those who are of good will. I cast out the spirit of petty divisiveness, which clouds the sense and the desire to be of fruitful productivity in addressing the issues more appropriately before this House. I cast out any sadness brought on by the frustration of dealing with matters detrimental to the honorable work each member has been called to engage in.
Well, I got to say, I think an exorcism in the House was long overdue.
And then he came out with a cross and some garlic.
Yeah.
And then the doors flew open and a breeze came in.
And Nancy Pelosi burst into flames. For more on the week that was, we're pleased to be joined again by our friend Roger Kimball, editor of the new Criterion and columnist for PJ Media. Roger, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. How are you guys?
Good.
I guess you're warm. It's very warm there.
Yes.
Warm here, too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to call Dan later today because we're encouraged to check on our elderly friends.
Right. Wellness check. Make sure I figure out how to use the air conditioner. Right.
Yeah, or get into a cooling center.
There you go.
On the week that was, wrapping up yesterday with that exorcism in the House, what about Trump disavowing the center-back chance at his rally in North Carolina and just the whole imbroglio this week over his tweets and the socialist Spice Girls responses?
Yes, that's good. The socialist Spice Girls. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, basically, I thought Trump's tweets were fine, with the exception of they should all go back where they came from, because obviously, only Representative Omar is from another country, so that was inaccurate. And but the basic sentiment behind the tweets was, if you don't like this country, if you hate America, then you don't have to stay. You're welcome to go. And I think that is a salutary reminder. We've all probably seen the movie The Man Without a Country. This fellow who does all these anti-American things, and his punishment is to not be able to ever set foot in the country again. And he dies a very, very sad man. Now, the truth of the matter is that these four performance artists, or Spice Girls, as you say, they are really not fulfilling their role as legislators. That is to say, people who are looking after the interests of their constituents and have the well-being of the Commonwealth in mind. They are really out to grandstand and champion their own celebrity, and they express daily a wide range of really repellent opinions about they're regularly anti-Semitic. I think it was Rashida Tlaib said that she always got a feeling of great calmness when contemplating the Holocaust. Representative Omar said that about 9/11. Well, somebody did some things. So they're and of course, and they treat the president of the United States with nothing but vicious contempt. I won't repeat, since this is a family show, what Rashida Tlaib said on the night of her election, but it was unprintable about the president, and yet they're given complete license to say and do whatever they want. And Donald Trump is held to this sort of Miss Grundy standard of moral rectitude, and
but he's the president of the United States. I mean, I just
that's right.
because he said that, so now we have this in Naperville. There's a gas station owner or cashier who was fired because he did exactly what Trump did. There's some Hispanic people that came into the store, and he questioned their citizenship, and then he said, "Go back to your country." So I mean, it's people. Trump can't be responsible for other people's behavior, but it's encouraging bad behavior in some cases.
Well, the bad behavior on the part of the store owner or the part of the people who fired.
No, the store owner, and he got fired for it, which I think he should have gotten fired for it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I tend to. Personally, I think that I'm for sort of robust. Speech, and people, saying something is one thing, doing something is another thing. I think in this whole debate, the one thing that's been underappreciated is the extent to which Donald Trump is actually a very funny person. He has a great talent to tweak people and to say tweet something, and then people go nuts. Meanwhile, he's getting on with the business of the country. And the more serious point here, though, is you'll notice that all four of these women, like college professors across the country and human resource departments, they're always going on about people of color. That phrase has always irritated me, because what does it mean? They imply that because one is dark-skinned, one is somehow endowed with a special virtue, whereas if one is paler, one is not. But that's like a caste system in ancient India. It's deeply racist, because it says that somehow your virtue is dependent not on what you do, but who you are. And it totally inverts Martin Luther King's very wise proposal that we treat people not on the basis of the color of their skin, but the content of their character. That has totally been forgotten in this debate. And so the term racism is used as an empty epithet, but also a weapon to destroy people with whom one disagrees. And I think that the president has at least, even if you don't like his tweets, one thing he has done is gotten people to think about this. And I hope that that some of the content of that invocation that you ran at the beginning of the show, I hope that people will take that to heart and try to dial down the heat and the vituperation a little bit.
You can hope that will happen, but segueing
the last evil in Pandora's box, I hope. Yeah.
You can segueing from what you were just saying. This tweet that went viral this week, and as an expert in latency, I thought I'd put this to you, since it's such a popular tweet. See if this is true. It's just some random oracle on Twitter wrote, "White people, unpopular opinion." So she did flag it. White people love dogs so much because deep down they miss owning slaves. They love the owner and master dynamic, desperate for something to control.
I mean, you don't know what to say. You've entered a kind of world of bizarro. You can say anything, and that is, I mean, it's clearly ridiculous, because plenty of black people enjoy owning dogs too. Dog man's best friend, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, as Nietzsche once said, you don't refute a disease. There's no point in trying to argue with that, because it deserves contempt and ridicule, not argument.
Well,
I mean, one could argue with it, I suppose, but it's a waste of time.
Yeah. Well, here's maybe let me see if this falls into that category too. We've got a lot of interesting opinions. Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, he's the president, senior lecturer of the repairers of the breach and a co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign. And this op-ed, Politico found fit to print the racist history of tipping. In arguing for a $15 minimum wage, he also took up the other provision of legislation.
Tipping? You mean tipping on a restaurant bill?
Yes, tipping. Yeah. Another provision of the $15 minimum wage is eliminating the sub-minimum tipped wage, which, oh, by the way, a lot of people in the service industry oppose. And this is why the service industry workers in Seattle tried to get their minimum wage increase rescinded. But anyway, it's a relic of slavery. It was a way for workers to blah, blah, blah.
If they were any stupider, you'd have to water them.
Oh.
Well, okay. Yeah, but these are but it goes back to what you're saying before, and Peggy Noonan writes about this a bit as well. Is look, there's no possibility for improvement because as a white person, you're endemically racist and privileged, casting disprivilege or disfavor on others. Yeah. So then, where do we go? We just fight to the death.
Well, that's of course. You understand that is a thoroughly racist remark, right? Because you're white, you are this way,
right?
That's one would have hoped that we finally gotten beyond that, and the civil rights movement and so on. But now they're kind of bringing it in through the back door and sort of inverting the scale. But I remember my friend John Silver, once the president of Boston University. He had been the dean or provost or something at the University of Texas, and there was a great movement to. He managed to kind of integrate the students in Texas. Then when he went to Boston University, some black students wanted separate dormitories and separate classrooms and all that stuff. And he said, I didn't preside over the integration of the University of Texas to reintroduce segregation in Boston. And that's it's a noxious, toxic current. I think it's fairly small, but it should be categorically resisted by people who have the welfare of this country at heart, because these are elements that will stop at nothing to sow divisiveness. And as Adam Smith once said to a disconsolate correspondent during the Revolutionary War, said, there's a deal of ruin in a nation, and especially in the United States, because this is a great, powerful, rich, diverse country. But these are strands of deep divisiveness that I think should be resisted at every turn.
He is Roger Kimball. He's the editor of the New Criterion, columnist for PJ Media. Check out his most recent piece, The White Supremacy Phantom. Roger, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
That's fun. Thanks.
Take care.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is